So, there is this story from 2010 that honestly sounds like it came straight out of a spy movie, except it is real, and it is one of the most bizarre assassination cases you will ever hear about. It all went down in Dubai, in one of those fancy five-star hotels. A Hamas commander gets killed in his hotel room, and the whole thing should have been clean, quiet, and undetectable. But instead, it turned into this massive international scandal that had governments freaking out and intelligence agencies scrambling. Let me walk you through what happened, because, trust me, the details are wild. First, you have got to understand who this guy was. Mahmoud Al-Mabhouh was not just some random Hamas member. This was a big deal target. He was born in 1960 in the Jabalia refugee camp in Gaza. He started out pretty normal, worked as a car mechanic, owned a garage, and did weightlifting when he was younger. He had 13 siblings, was married with 4 kids, a regular guy on the surface. But by the time 2010 rolled around, Al-Mabhouh had become one of Israel's most wanted men, and there were some pretty serious reasons for that. Back in 1989, he personally carried out the kidnapping and murder of 2 Israeli soldiers, Avi Sasportas and Ilan Saadon. And here is the creepy part. He admitted in a video interview just 2 weeks before his death that he had disguised himself as an Orthodox Jew to pull off the attack. Israel demolished his house in Gaza as payback, and he fled. But that was not even why he was target number 1 by 2010. Al-Mabhouh had become Hamas's chief logistics and weapons guy. Basically, he was the middleman between Iran and Hamas, smuggling advanced weaponry into Gaza. We are talking anti-tank missiles, guided rockets, the kind of stuff that could reach deep into Israel. He had helped forge connections between Hamas and Iran's Revolutionary Guards, setting up supply lines that brought in increasingly dangerous weapons. Israel, Egypt, and Jordan all wanted him dead. He had already survived 2 assassination attempts. The first one was a car bombing. The second happened in Beirut in 2009, where someone apparently used radioactive poison on him. It knocked him out for 30 hours, but he survived. So yeah, this guy knew people were after him. He should have been paranoid. But in January 2010, he made a decision that would prove fatal. He booked a trip to Dubai online. Early January 2010. At Mossad headquarters in Tel Aviv, they call it the Midrasha. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu pulled up in his black Audi. He was there to meet with Meir Dagan, the head of Mossad. Dagan was this 64-year-old guy who walked with a stick from an old injury, but do not let that fool you. He was known for being aggressive, ruthless even. He kept a photo in his office of his grandfather kneeling before Nazi soldiers right before they shot him. That is the kind of motivation he carried around. According to sources close to Mossad, Netanyahu was briefed on a plan to take out Al-Mabhouh. Some members of the hit squad were apparently even in the room. The intelligence was solid. Al-Mabhouh was planning a trip to Dubai to meet with people about weapons deals, possibly with Iranians. The mission did not seem overly risky or complicated. They had been tracking Al-Mabhouh for months, maybe even a year. They had hacked his email, planted surveillance on his computer, and studied his travel patterns. They knew he had been to Dubai multiple times before, staying at the same hotels. Netanyahu gave his authorization. According to reports, when prime ministers approve these operations, they typically say something like, "The people of Israel trust you. Good luck." The death warrant was signed. Here is where things start getting interesting. The hit team they assembled for this was massive. We are talking somewhere between 26 to 29 people. That is not normal. Usually, these operations use way fewer people, but apparently they put this together pretty quickly and needed bodies on the ground. Starting on January 18th, 2010, these operatives began flying into Dubai from all over Europe, Paris, Frankfurt, Rome, Zurich. They came from everywhere. And here is the sketchy part. They were all using fake passports. British, Irish, Australian, French, German. They had forged passports from at least 5 different countries. Some of these were based on real Israelis with dual citizenship who had no idea their identities were being borrowed. Others were stolen and doctored documents. They carried fake credit cards, used prepaid cell phones, and paid for everything in cash. Classic spy stuff. They scattered their arrivals, checked into different hotels, and tried to look like regular tourists. The advance team showed up on the morning of January 18th, a full day before Al-Mabhouh. They split into groups because they did not know which hotel he would stay at. 3 teams staked out hotels where he had stayed before. A 4th team would tail him from the airport when he arrived. And Dubai? Dubai has surveillance cameras everywhere. The airport, the hotels, the elevators, the hallways. State-of-the-art stuff. Some of it was actually purchased from Israeli companies, which is kind of ironic when you think about it. But the Mossad team knew about the cameras. They were counting on being long gone before anyone pieced together what happened. January 19th, 2010, 3:15 p.m. Emirates Flight 912 from Damascus touched down in Dubai. An agent on the ground in Syria had already confirmed Al-Mabhouh was on that flight. When he cleared customs and collected his bags, the surveillance team was waiting. And get this, despite having multiple fake passports with him, Al-Mabhouh entered Dubai using his real name, his own passport. Hamas officials later said he had even told family in Gaza the phone number of the hotel where he would be staying. For a guy who had survived 2 assassination attempts and knew Israel wanted him dead, these were some really careless moves. 2 Mossad agents, dressed up like tourists in tennis gear, followed him through the airport. They had tennis rackets, but no cases for them, just the rackets themselves slung over their shoulders. They wore fake beards, glasses, the whole disguise setup. They tailed him to the Bustan Rotana Hotel, this luxury place near the airport. When Al-Mabhouh checked into room 230, these 2 fake tennis players rode the elevator with him. Just casual, like they belonged there. They watched him enter his room, confirming the exact room number. Within an hour, the team had figured out that room 237, directly across the hall, was unoccupied. One of the operatives specifically requested that room and booked it under a French passport. But here is the thing. The guy who booked it flew out of Dubai just hours later. He never actually stayed there. Instead, room 237 became the operation's staging ground, the hub where the surveillance team gathered, watched, and coordinated. Around 8 p.m., Al-Mabhouh left the hotel. He was out meeting someone, probably doing the weapons deal he had flown in for. There is actually a mysterious 4-hour gap in Dubai police records where they could not track him. Some reports suggest he met with Iranian Revolutionary Guards during this time, which would have been embarrassing for Dubai to admit. But while he was gone, the team made their move. Several operatives kept watch in the hallways. 2 tried to get into room 230, but a random tourist stepped out of the elevator at the wrong moment and almost spotted them. One agent had to distract the tourist while the others worked. They had this advanced electronic device that could reprogram hotel door locks. The Al Bustan used Ving card LockLink brand locks, and these can actually be reprogrammed right at the door. No master key needed. The hotel's computer logs later confirmed that someone had tampered with Al-Mabhouh's lock. 4 men, big guys, entered the room around 8 p.m. and hid inside. They were waiting for Al-Mabhouh to come back. Throughout all of this, the team used short-range communication devices to coordinate. They did not call each other directly. Instead, they routed everything through phone numbers in Austria, where they had apparently set up a command center. A smart move to avoid direct connections, but it also left a trail that investigators would later follow. 8:24 p.m. Al-Mabhouh returned to the hotel. Security footage shows him walking through the lobby, taking the elevator up to the second floor and entering room 230. What happened next in that room, nobody saw. But forensics later pieced together a pretty clear picture. The four men hiding in his room ambushed him. First, they injected him with succinylcholine. It is a fast-acting muscle relaxant that doctors use as an anesthetic. This stuff paralyzes you almost instantly. You cannot move, cannot fight back, cannot even call for help. Some reports also mentioned electrocution. There were marks found on his legs, behind his ears, even on his genitals and over his heart. Then they suffocated him with a pillow. The whole thing was designed to look natural. They positioned his body neatly on the bed, folded his pants over a chair, and placed a bottle of heart medicine on the nightstand. They made it seem like the guy just died in his sleep from a heart condition. Before they left, they even put up a Do Not Disturb sign and chain-locked the door from the inside. That detail is important. It suggested nobody else could have been in the room when he died. 8:48 p.m. Security cameras caught four large men leaving the hotel. Al-Mabhouh was already dead. The whole thing took maybe 20 minutes. His wife tried calling his cell phone half an hour later. No answer. By then, the killers were already at the airport, boarding flights to Hong Kong, Switzerland, Germany, and various European cities. Within hours, most of the 26-person team had left Dubai. Within 24 hours, they were all gone. Mission accomplished. Target eliminated. Operatives extracted safely. It should have been a perfect operation, except it wasn't. January 20th, 2010, 1:30 p.m. A hotel maid tried to enter room 230 for cleaning. The door was locked from the inside. She called security. When they finally got the door open, they found Al-Mabhouh's body lying peacefully on the bed. At first, nobody suspected anything. The room was immaculate. No signs of struggle, no forced entry. Everything looked totally natural. Hamas even announced that same day that Al-Mabhouh had died of cancer in a hospital in the UAE. A complete cover story, probably to avoid embarrassment. But the Dubai police chief, Lieutenant General Dahi Khalfan Tamim, wasn't buying it. This guy was a veteran investigator known for high-profile cases, and something felt off. The scene was too perfect, too neat, too orderly. He ordered an autopsy and pulled every bit of surveillance footage from the hotel and airport. When Dubai police started going through the footage, they found something weird. There were all these suspicious characters hanging around the hotel at the exact times Al-Mabhouh was there. The tennis players with no racket cases, people changing disguises in bathrooms, and operatives ducking in and out of rooms. And here's the breakthrough. They found footage of those fake tennis players waiting in the lobby for hours with their rackets and towels draped over their shoulders. It looked completely unnatural. Where do you find real tennis players walking around a hotel for hours, holding rackets out of their cases? That one detail caught the police chief's attention. From there, they started cross-referencing everything. They compiled a list of every traveler who had entered and left Dubai around the same times as Al-Mabhouh's previous trips in 2009 and 2010. And boom! They found this suspicious group using the same fake passports on multiple trips. British, Irish, Australian, French, and German nationals who kept showing up in Dubai right when Al-Mabhouh did. The toxicology report came back. High levels of succinylcholine in his blood. That's not a drug you casually have in your system. The injection mark on his thigh confirmed it. This was murder. And it was professional. It took 10 days of investigation, but Dubai police finally announced they had identified 11 suspects. Later, that number grew to 17, then 26, the largest assassination team anyone could remember. On February 16, 2010, Lieutenant General Tamim held a press conference that changed everything. He released the CCTV footage to the public, put it on YouTube, and showed the world these grainy videos of the operatives following Al-Mabhouh through airports and hotels, changing disguises, and entering and exiting rooms. And then he released the passport photos, the faces of 26 suspects, along with their fake names and passport numbers. The video went viral. Suddenly, everyone on Earth could watch this assassination unfold in real time through security cameras. The reaction was immediate and brutal. Turns out, those fake passports belonged to real people. 6 British citizens living in Israel woke up one morning to find their faces plastered all over international news as suspected assassins. They were totally innocent. Their identities had just been stolen. One guy told Reuters he had never even been to Dubai and had zero connection to Mossad or the killing. Another woman said she was terrified, worried about retaliation from Hamas. Britain was furious. Ireland was furious. Australia called it not the act of a friend. France lodged formal complaints. Germany launched investigations. Dubai police went further. On March 3, 2010, the police chief announced he was requesting arrest warrants for Benjamin Netanyahu and Meir Dagan. He said he was 99%, if not 100%, certain that Mossad was behind it. Britain and Ireland expelled Israeli diplomats. Poland arrested a guy named Uri Brodsky, also known as Alexander Verin, who had been involved in obtaining one of the fake German passports. He was the smoking gun that directly linked the operation to Israel. Dubai police added all 26 suspects' photos to Interpol's most wanted list. They also had retinal scans of the 11 operatives who had entered through Dubai airport, and they threatened to release those too. Israel, following its usual practice, refused to comment. Foreign Minister Avigdor Lieberman said the press watches too many James Bond movies and claimed there was no evidence linking Israel to anything. Deputy Foreign Minister Danny Ayalon said, "There is nothing linking Israel to the assassination." But everyone knew. Israeli media and public opinion pretty much accepted that Mossad did it. Some Israelis even celebrated, calling it a successful operation because the target was dead and the team got out safely. Here's what made this operation so controversial within intelligence circles. It was sloppy, really sloppy. The tennis players were waiting for hours in the lobby with their rackets. The obvious disguises, fake beards and wigs that anyone could see through. Operatives changing disguises in the same bathrooms, in full view of cameras, using the same fake passports on multiple trips to Dubai. Former Mossad agent Viktor Ostrovsky, who spoke to the media after the operation, said it looked amateurish. The disguises were bad. The coordination was visible, and they severely underestimated Dubai's surveillance capabilities. Some security experts wondered if it was even Mossad at all. The tradecraft was so sloppy, maybe someone else did it and tried to make it look like Mossad? Or maybe Mossad wanted to be caught to send a message? But the most likely explanation is simpler. They rushed it. When Al-Mabhouh booked his Dubai flight online at short notice, there wasn't time to prepare properly forged passports. So they reused ones they had already created, even though some had been used on previous Dubai trips. That's spy work 101. You never reuse a burned identity. They also needed a huge team, because they didn't know where Al-Mabhouh would stay and had to cover multiple hotels simultaneously. More people mean more chances of exposure. And yeah, they knew about the cameras, but they thought they would be long gone before anyone connected the dots. And they were right about that part. The problem was, they didn't count on Dubai police being smart enough, determined enough, and tech-savvy enough to reconstruct the entire operation from footage. 2 Palestinians were also arrested, Former Fatah security officers who had allegedly helped the Mossad team by renting cars and hotel rooms. This added another layer to the story. It wasn't just Israel versus Hamas. There were Palestinian factions involved, with old rivalries between Hamas and Fatah playing out. The U.S. refused to help Dubai's investigation, even though two of the suspects entered America after the killing. Leaked diplomatic cables later showed Dubai had asked for help tracking credit card numbers used by the assassins, but the U.S. wouldn't cooperate. For Mossad, the operation became an embarrassment. Former chief Meir Dagan later had a falling out with Netanyahu, and people speculated that the Dubai fiasco played a role. The exposure of their methods, the passport scandal, and the diplomatic fallout damaged Mossad's reputation for years. But from a purely operational standpoint, they got their target. Al-Mabhouh was dead. The team escaped. Mission accomplished, even if it got messy afterward. This assassination changed the spy game in some fundamental ways. It showed that in 2010, with surveillance cameras everywhere, biometric passports, digital tracking, and forensic technology, you can't just disappear after an operation. Everything leaves a trace. Every movement gets recorded. The old-school spy tactics, fake passports, disguises, cash payments, still work to a point. But in a place like Dubai, which has more cameras per square foot than almost anywhere on Earth, those tactics aren't enough. It also revealed how Mossad operates. The use of dual citizenship Israelis' identities, the European passport forgeries, the massive teams, the sophisticated electronic devices to bypass hotel locks, and the Austrian command centers, all of it became public knowledge. And it raised uncomfortable questions about targeted assassinations. The UN Special Rapporteur on Extrajudicial Killings called it exactly that, an extrajudicial execution. Al-Mabhouh could have been arrested and put on trial. Instead, he was killed in a foreign country. Israel never confirmed or denied involvement, maintaining their policy of ambiguity. But everyone knows. Dubai knows. Hamas knows. The intelligence community knows. Al-Mabhouh's nephew, by the way, followed in his footsteps, joined Hamas, and became an engineering officer. He was killed in an Israeli attack during the 2014 Gaza conflict. This wasn't just about one Hamas commander. It was part of a much bigger shadow war between Israel and Iran, with groups like Hamas and Hezbollah caught in the middle. Al-Mabhouh was a key link in the weapons pipeline from Iran to Gaza. Taking him out was meant to disrupt that flow, at least temporarily. But as critics pointed out, someone else just stepped into his role. The weapons kept flowing. The conflict continued. Meir Dagan, who approved this operation, spent the rest of his career fighting with Netanyahu over Iran's strategy. He became a vocal critic, calling plans to bomb Iran's nuclear facilities the stupidest idea he'd ever heard. He died of cancer in 2016, still arguing against military strikes. The Dubai operation became a symbol of the limits of covert action. You can kill one person, but you can't kill an ideology or stop a movement. Al-Mabhouh's replacement probably brought in just as many weapons, maybe more. And the diplomatic cost was real. Israel had to rebuild relationships with Britain, Ireland, Australia, and other countries whose passports had been burned. Trust was damaged. Intelligence sharing got complicated. So that's the story of how Mossad assassinated Mahmoud Al-Mabhouh in a Dubai hotel room. It's a story about the changing nature of espionage in the digital age, about how even the world's most sophisticated intelligence agencies can mess up basic tradecraft, about the messy reality of targeted killings and shadow wars. 26 people to kill one man, fake passports from 5 countries, electronic lock bypass devices, muscle relaxants and pillows, tennis rackets without cases. All of it was caught on camera for the world to see. The operation succeeded in its narrow objective. Al-Mabhouh died. but in every other way, it became a textbook example of how not to conduct a covert assassination. The operatives were never caught. Their photos are still on Interpol's wanted list, but they're almost certainly back in Israel, probably retired from active service. The innocent people whose identities were stolen mostly moved on with their lives. Dubai and Israel reportedly didn't speak for 18 months until the US helped broker talks. And Hamas? They vowed revenge. They always do. The cycle continues. That's the real story here, not the cool spy gadgets or the dramatic chase scenes, but the messy, complicated, morally ambiguous reality of how intelligence agencies operate in the modern world. With cameras watching everything, digital footprints everywhere, and the whole world as an audience. Welcome to 21st century espionage. It's not as clean as the movies make it look.